Hello and welcome back to the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network. Back talking Shore Conference football, going around the Shore, hitting different programs, speaking to coaches, players, and getting inside some of the programs in the Shore Conference each and every week. Bob Batters here, joined by Scott Stump, and we've got some exciting guests today. We'll be joined by three head coaches, all of which have guided their teams to undefeated records through the first few weeks. First, we'll talk to Manchester head coach Tommy Farrell of the 3-0 Hawks. Really off to a great start for the first time, the best start, in over 2 decades. We'll be joined in studio by Holmdel head coach Jeff Rainess, who's right down the road from podcast studio here in Bellworks. And then we'll talk to Brick head coach Len Zdanowicz, the Dragons 3-0, playing some great defense. So we'll talk to him, go inside their program, see what's clicking, and just kind of touch on those teams and highlight those three programs as we get set for week 3. And I'll bring in Scott here as we recap just one game from the week 2 slate. If you're looking for more of the game recaps, you can check out our other podcast, the Shore Football Report, Shore Conference podcast, where we go through each and every game, get into detail about them, really kind of break down the finer points. So if you're looking for that, head there. This is more about some coach and player interviews and really just diving deep into 1, 2, or 3 programs. You go back to that week 2, and the one game stands out amongst the others, and that was number 1 Toms River North going into Borden Stadium and coming away with a 42-21 victory over number 3 Rumson Fairhaven. And that was a matchup that when you saw the schedule came out early in the season, you circled that one. Test for Toms River North, first big in-conference test they really had it, in over 2 years, really, or at least, since the 2021 season. And, I was there and they passed it with flying colors.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is their resilience is what really stood out. I mean, Rumson scores a 92-yard touchdown on the first play from scrimmage in the game. That is crazy, especially they get their home crowd into it. They're going nuts. I mean, that's where the big game experience of Toms River North comes in, right? They've played in state championships. They've played in any kind of big game you could possibly imagine. So for them to just take that shot right off the bat and then answer it immediately. And then again, later in the game, Rumson closes the gap to 1 touchdown. And again, they respond. Obviously, it helps to have Michael Ford.
He's pretty good. Last time I checked, 396 combined yards between rushing and passing, all 6 Toms River North touchdowns. And we touched on this in our other podcast. He is on his way to becoming an all-time great in the history of Shore Conference football. Still a lot left to be written, in his story for his senior season. But yeah, just an incredible game. Another incredible game by Micah Ford. For the last 2, plus 3 weeks, 2 years plus 3 weeks of the season, he's done that pretty much every single week.
Yeah, he rises to the occasion. I mean, it's uncanny how every big game they have, he plays his best. Stanford's definitely getting a good one in Michael Ford. And we talked before the season about how Toms River North's schedule had dramatically ramped up, right? Last year they kind of rolled over their division, the Colonial Division. They get moved up to the American Division, but the wins just keep on coming and by significant margins. I mean, Rumson was a Group 2 finalist last year. They're also a state-ranked team, another one of the best public school teams in New Jersey, and they take care of them by 3 touchdowns on the road. And then now, yet another game in the gauntlet coming up this week, another huge one against Donovan Catholic, which to me is an almost even bigger rival because it's just right down the street.
Yeah, it's the big games do not stop in the American Division. It's really, no rest for the weary. Okay, you got a big win, cool. Like you can enjoy it
right
for about 10 minutes before you have to start preparing for another juggernaut team. Not just a team that's in the top 5 in the Shore, but in some instances, a team that's in the top 20 of the state. So it's a juggernaut division. If you get through that in good shape, you're going to be set up for the playoffs. And if any of those teams get through undefeated, like RBC did last year, it's a pretty big accomplishment. So with North, a tremendous win. We talked about the resiliency. That's really what stood out to me. They were down early. They scored the next 4 touchdowns. Rumson, which you got to expect they're going to do. They're going to battle. They came back off a turnover, cut it to 28-21 early in the third. And Toms River did the same thing again. Nope. We're just going to score, 2 final TDs and put this one away. So another impressive win for Toms River North. And, now they move on for another big challenge.
And they're just so explosive too. you feel like you're stopping them or slowing them down, and then 81-yard touchdown, 63-yard bomb. Like you feel like you can gain confidence against them getting a couple stops on a few plays, and they could be all the way on their back end of the field, and then boom, like they just knock the wind out of you. Because the other thing is there's just too many good guys to cover everybody. You have to make decisions, and if you're selling out to go to the line of scrimmage to try to stop Ford running the ball, he can throw it over your head. They have plenty of guys who can get behind your secondary. Like I don't know what the game plan is to beat them. And I give a lot of credit to Dave Ozerwitz and that staff because they've had the pressure on them since day one. Top ranked public school in the state, much harder schedule this year. And, I remember years ago talking to Steve Antonucci, the Middletown South coach, when they had no Sean Moreno and they had Nick Macaluso. And he used to say, I used to stay up at night thinking, I can't screw this up. Like we have to win every game because people think when you have that kind of talent, you shouldn't lose. Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure, especially playing the schedule that Toms River North is playing right now. So I give a lot of credit to that staff for keeping those guys motivated and, on edge. That's the other thing. That team plays like with an edge.
They do. They absolutely do. They have a lot of really good intangible qualities. And Oz talked about that after the Rumson win. His biggest thing was like they have so many skill players and no one's ever like, well, give me the ball, give me the ball. They just want to win. And you see it in a game like that. Like he can say that. And of course we believe him, but you saw it play out on that field. Like they dug deep when they needed to. And really just let their talent shine.
And actually a little bit of breaking news from today as far as their big junior recruit offensive lineman, Jalen Matthews.
Yes, decommitted from Penn State, which happened about like 20, 25 minutes ago right now when we're recording. So happened on Tuesday. So Matthews has a ton of FBS offers, so he opened up his recruitment again, as they say. So we'll see where he lands. Still only a junior. So he's got a lot of time to make his decision. And we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and it's especially interesting because just a week earlier, he had been out to Penn State on a visit for their season opening game against West Virginia, where they looked great. Drew Aller, their quarterback, is great. Michael Thomas III from Donovan Catholic was also out there on a visit. In his message on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it these days, he basically just said, please respect my privacy at this time. I just feel at this time with my family that we want to reopen our recruitment and see what else is out there. And there are instances of players recommitting to the same school.
Yes.
You don't know what that could be from. And it's just all speculation. Did he get another offer from another school that he really wanted? Is someone else coming in strong from another top program in the nation? Because this is a guy getting recruited by everyone under the sun. But we won't really know until he decides to announce, whatever his next decision is. But that's a big development because for Penn State, that was a huge commitment given that he's one of the top offensive line recruits in the Northeast and also a tremendous defensive lineman.
Yes. Yeah, it's a big one. He's a Rivals top 100 recruit. So he's going to have a lot of options. You never know. Maybe he went on the visit to Penn State and say, you know what, this place isn't for me. Like that's entirely possible. I think the assumption is you go visit and you fall in love with it.
Right.
That doesn't always happen. So we'll see what the future holds for Jalen Matthews in terms of his college recruitment. Just want to run down real quick the list of some of the other big ranked games. Number 5, Middletown South pulling a wild one out, 35-29 over Wall. Eagles scored 2 touchdowns in the final 3 minutes, the second of which was a 43-yard pick six by senior D-back Owen Richter. And that was, came off a blitz, tipped the pass to himself, returned it, went in for the touchdown. And Middletown South survives. A heartbreaking loss for Wall, but a big one for Middletown South as it has a bye, tries to get healthy. Number 7, Jackson Memorial, tidy 21-0 shutout of Lacey. Number 8, Manalapan, a big win, 33-6 over then number 8, Long Branch. You had Marlboro, which now moved up to number 10, a 31-0 shutout of Southern Regional. Brick Memorial took care of business, 49-14 over Barnegat, moved up one spot to number 11. Middletown North, 14-12 over Howell. The Lions move up a spot. And then we mentioned Wall, which stays at number 15, just some tough losses. But the Crimson Knights, to me, they're still a rankable team. It's just when you have that kind of schedule, the margin for error is really slim. So the Knights fall to 1 and 2. And then a couple new teams in the rankings in Brick and Farrell Township. Connect to the website, check out the Shore Conference Football Shore 16 on the bios on all those teams. So that was really the main games from week 2. We'll touch on the big ones for week 3 towards the end here, but we're going to get into our coach interviews coming up. So we'll take a quick break and we'll come back. We'll talk some Manchester Hawks football with second-year head coach Tommy Farrell. You are watching and listening to the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network. We're back on the Varsity Link Coaches Corner, talking Shore Conference football heading into week 3 of the season. And right now we're joined by Manchester Township second-year head coach Tommy Farrell. The Hawks coming off a big 41-13 victory, over Point Pleasant Beach. Improved to 3-0 for the first time in over 20 years. So the Hawks are flying high. But talking to Tommy these last couple of days, I know what your message to your team has been, and I'm sure it has been to forget about those first 3 wins. So, first of all, thanks for joining us. I know you guys are excited about 3-0, but what has the main message been to your team, since you got that win over Point Beach?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bob. I mean, the message stays the same. The focus now is that we're in division play, so every week counts more and more. Right now, we're focused on Keansburg. Kind of going to call out my team right now. Not really happy with how we've practiced this week. I'm here to make your interview because I threw the kids off the field today. So we got to really clean it up, and we got to focus in on everything, all 3 phases of football if we want to, show out on senior night this Friday night against Keansburg. They're a very athletic football team. Coach Reed is doing good things up there in Keansburg, and we're not going to take any team lightly. And we certainly have to clean up. We haven't played a near perfect football game this season. So we're definitely, that's the message right now.
And Tommy, good to talk to you. I think a big thing, you're already halfway to the single season wins record for Manchester. And we're only in the second week of September here. I know you're, like you said, you're trying to keep your team focused and everything, but that's got to be generating just a lot of enthusiasm and excitement in the school, which I know has been a big, aim of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, these kids at Manchester, they deserve to win. They deserve to have, the publicity and the hype. But yeah, I mean, right now we're focused on Keansburg, but going off of what you just said, yeah, I mean, do we have the opportunity to go 4-0 for the first time in school history? We absolutely do. We have the first, do we have a chance to be a division champion for the first time in school history? We absolutely do. But that's our focus right now is not beating ourselves. And the last, the special teams we have to clean up, penalties we have to clean up. So we're definitely not focused on, a wins record at Manchester right now.
And do you feel like you have something to prove? And again, I hate to be the guy raining on the parade, but the 3-0 is against 3 teams that are combined 0-9. So I think, is it the thing still for the kids? Like, I think we need to convert some more people into believers here.
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing against the opponents that we played. I mean, North Plainfield is in a pretty tough division up north. Barnegat is in a very tough division. They're a very good football team. Cole Toddings and Coach Covine are doing great things down there. And Coach Zacone at Point Beach was one of my high school coaches at Donovan. And they're probably going to be the best coach team that we see all season. But yeah, look, we're going to see a very athletic team in Keansburg, and we just got to take it one game at a time. We don't really look in the past unless we have to clean up certain things. But we just got to take it 1 week at a time. And the message to the kids is that, each game throughout the season, you're going to see a better team than the last one because each team is going to improve from week to week. So that's the message right now.
Tommy, your football journey to get to being the head coach at Manchester. And you played at Donovan Catholic, as you said, played collegiately at Stonehill, right? Correct there?
Yes. Yep.
Stonehill, an assistant at Parsippany, and then Shore Regional before you got the head coaching job at Manchester.
Yeah, and after and right before Parsippany, I was with Coach Fentz at New Egypt for 2 years. So
you were one of us, a media guy there for a little bit.
That's true.
Yeah, I was like a freelance guy during one of the All Shore games. That was pretty fun. Yeah.
I know it's been not a long road, but you've bounced around a couple places looking for your first head coaching job. You have it now in your second season. I can see how you really kind of just ingrained yourself into that community, and you're really trying to be not just the coach of the high school team, but a big part of the community. Tell us how much that means to you and what kind of impact you feel like that can have on the entire program, not just high school level, but all down through the youth level as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. Like, I mean, it wasn't cool when the kids trick-or-treated at my house and stole all my candy because I live in town. But to live in town, in the town that you're a head coach in, it's pretty cool. You know, when we go to a local restaurant after the games, you get a standing ovation. When I come home, you know, some of the neighbors are like honking their horns in Pine Lake. It's really cool. So to be a head coach in the town that I live in is awesome. From a community aspect, I always tell, you know, other coaches I talk to, the players should think you went to the high school that you're coaching at. So the player, if I didn't tell the kids or tell you guys, or if you didn't say that I went to Donovan, they would think I went to Manchester, just because I have so much pride in the school. I have so much pride in the township. I have so much pride in the AYF. I have only Manchester football clothes. Sorry, Coach Duddy. My Donovan stuff is in the attic. My B South shirt's in the attic. But, you know, unless I say something about Donovan, that you would think I went to Manchester because I have so much pride and so much belief in the school. And I think it just starts with that positive energy and just positive speak about, you know, what you're repping.
And piggybacking on that a little bit, you know, the coaching staff that you've put together. I know you have Gerard O'Donnell, former Manchester head coach, you know, has been on staff with you for a couple of years. You have Lamar Davenport, who was a star at Asbury Park and at Monmouth University, was the head coach at Asbury Park last season. You know, some other, you know, really integral pieces of your coaching staff. Just tell us about that and how it all came together, where you feel like you really have a good group to, you know, to guide the team in the vision that you have.
Yeah, I mean, my staff, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it without my staff. I have 11 assistants, 4 of them being volunteers, and all 4 of those volunteers are Manchester alumni. So right there off the gate, you want to get alumni in. You know, quick phone call, quick background from other teachers in the school. This guy's good. You know, so that's huge. Having my uncle Gerard on staff as my defensive coordinator. He's the winningest head coach at Manchester. He's done it before. To lean on him for things that really aren't X's and O's, you know, how would I handle this situation, or how do I handle this issue, or this, that, and the third, is huge. You know, I wouldn't be able to do my job without him. Lamar Davenport. The kids absolutely love Lamar Davenport. He's huge for us. He's taken on the D-backs in a huge way. And then Bob Masseri, who's been a former head coach everywhere under the sun, who lives in Hollyoaks in Manchester, is also a huge addition. My dad's head coach. And you know, my dad's in my ear too every day, telling me plays to run and schemes to run.
I heard, I saw him recently, and he told me about the extra down in the game, and you're trying to tell him, hey, they got a 5th down. You turn around to Dad, get off the field. You're going to throw him off the field.
I thought he was going to get a flag. First of all, look, he's not board approved to be on my sideline, so I don't know why he's getting on the side. No, I wouldn't be where my dad is. But
superintendent, you could just kind of do what you want.
Well, his argument is I don't need to be board approved. I run boards, so yes. You can't really say anything to that. It's all love with me and my dad, but you know, sometimes look, when you're texting me on a Thursday night what he thinks I should run, the hay's in the barn already. Like, Dad, I'm not reading this text message right now. Like, we just had pasta dinner, we just had our walkthrough. But another shout out on my staff is Jeff Brown. Jeff Brown is my offensive coordinator, played at Jackson Memorial, coached at Jackson Memorial. He's doing great things with the offense. I think, if I'm not wrong, we have the most points in the Shore right now. So that's a testament to him. And Alex Lund, my special teams coordinator, he's a Manchester alumni. It's just, I wouldn't be able to do this without my staff. And it's a testament to the staff, to the parents, to the community, to the players. 3-0 is great. The kids deserve the win. The kids deserve the hype. But we're definitely, not where we want to be just yet.
Speaking of all of those points, we got to talk about Josh Love. I mean, he's already got
I think he's all of them.
He's already got, double-digit touchdowns in 3 games. He had over 200 yards rushing and 4 TDs in the first half against Point Beach.
It's pretty good.
How has he made that leap from, a good, solid running back in the Shore to like a star?
Yeah, so he's just really taking coaching seriously, and he's trusting his O-line. There is no animosity. There's no clicks on the team. First of all, when you're a linebacker and you're going up against a 5'6", 5'7" running back, it's very tough to see because we do have a decent sized O-line. So when you're going behind a 6'5" Spencer Plasick, going up against blocking him, you're not going to see a 5'7" Josh Love. So he really hugs the down blocks well. He has patience behind the line, and he's shifty enough to make one move on the second level and then has that second gear speed to get to the sideline. I mean, he's not only is he a tremendous football player, he's a captain. He's a tremendous young man. I think he's got a 3.0, 3.1 GPA. He's doing all the right things, and I'm happy for Josh Love to get this attention in a positive way that he deserves.
And when it's a team sport. You need everybody to win.
Absolutely.
To have a player like that, where if like in a big moment, hey man, you might need like a 45-yard touchdown run, and he's the kind of player that can bring that. So how huge is that? I know you're confident about your team as a whole in all phases, but having a player like that can be a difference maker at any point in the game, anytime he touches the ball, seems like it's giving you guys a huge advantage.
It's huge. Look, when me and when myself and my offensive coordinator are arguing if we should run the ball or pass the ball on third down, that's a good problem to have because we want the ball in Josh's hands as much as we can. But we also we know that opens up the play action game a little bit. But that's a double-edged sword. That's, I'm very happy to have that argument because it's a good problem because we can trust our quarterback in Aiden Lund. We can trust our veteran receivers. We can trust our O-line to do either or. And obviously we can trust Josh Love when he has the football in his hand. So it's a very good problem to have. And every single one of these kids has just bought in to the culture and to just being humble and taking coaching. And I think that's why we're, hopefully taking that next step of Manchester football.
Right. And he's done, Love has done so well here the first couple of weeks that he's going to get major attention from everyone you played. I mean, you might see teams just completely sell out and have their whole defense within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. So to me, that makes Aiden Lund a big, key because he's going to be the guy to try to make them pay for doing that. How have you seen his progress so far this season at quarterback?
Oh, Aiden Lund is, you wouldn't know that he was a sophomore last year just from watching his tape. I mean, he almost threw for 1,000 yards. I think he has one stupid interception this year that he underthrew, in my opinion. That was I called the play, but I think he could have stepped into it a little bit. Other than that, his passer rating is pretty good. He has very good pocket presence. He's not afraid to run the ball. He had more rushing yards than passing yards this last week against Point Beach on one run. He made a couple moves. He lowered his shoulder. I wish he slid, but he got tackled. He's not afraid to run the ball. So you also kind of have to cover 11 if you're playing us on defense because Aiden Lund is not afraid to run the ball either. So he's taken that next step. And he's also been more of a vocal leader, which I need out of my quarterback. And he's been doing that tenfold.
On the defensive side, you did give up 24 points in the win over Barnegat week 1, but week 0, I think it's only 6 points North Plainfield scored, and then 13 for Point Beach. I know one of them came very late. You had mostly the backups in JV, and so that side of the ball, I know 2 guys that stick out for me: Dante Mordelite, Curtis Mayer, and you've got a bunch of other guys playing well. So tell us about some of the guys on that side of the ball that when the offense is scoring around 40 points a game, those guys get a ton of attention. But again, the defense has been playing pretty well so far.
Yeah, well, I fired myself as defensive coordinator from last year because we gave up more than 30 points a game. So that's where I brought in my uncle, Gerard O'Donnell, to call the defense, and he's been doing a great job. He's also been coaching the D-line. Curtis Mayer, I think, leads the state in sacks right now. I think he has 5 or 6 sacks. He just had 4 TFLs against Point Pleasant Beach. Dante Mordelite is a junior who was our sophomore last year leading tackler. And then we got good 2 returning quarters in MJ Goins and Malik Farms, our 2 safeties, and Antonio Sarama and Josh Love. And we wreak havoc up front. We don't want our D-backs to make tackles because that means we're not doing our job up front. But we're also not a team that really blitzes a lot because we trust our guys to make the right reads and to do the right thing. Our defense is playing great. We got to stop the run. I mean, we let up an 82-yard run against Point Beach. We let up 2 70-plus yard runs against Barnegat. So that's really been the focus right now is how do we stop the run and how can we be better against the run? So that's our point of emphasis right now.
You mentioned Keensburg coming up this week. The Titans 0-2, but a couple, they haven't been, I think they lost 27-16 to Jackson Liberty. So they're right there. You mentioned, they're a dangerous team with some athletes. When you're, getting ready for them this week, preparing, what are some of the points that stick out, things you guys are going to need to do well or try to eliminate that they do?
Yeah, just from our end, we have to clean up our special teams play and we have to eliminate penalties. We've had way too many penalties, way too many timeouts on my end because there's either 10 or 12 on special teams. We've had a couple special teams turnovers this year. So just taking care of an us standpoint, those are 2 things that stick out that are a point of emphasis this week. But talking about Keensburg, they are very athletic and they're very fast. Their quarterback can run the football. He's not afraid to pull it on their certain read plays, on their certain option plays. They like having 3 backs in the backfield at sometimes and like a wishbone pistol, which we have to that changes up our defense a little bit. And they fly off the line of scrimmage from their edge guys on defense. So we just have to be patient on the offensive line. We have to let Josh Love do his work, hug his down blocks. And we just have to stay patient and read our keys on defense to make sure there's no big run plays for Keansburg. So like I said, Coach Reed's doing a good job. They have a good amount of athletes, and I think it's a great matchup from a speed aspect and an athletic aspect. One
last thing, just tell us about the home atmosphere for games. Just seeing the videos you guys put up, you have the bagpipes leading out the team. You did a pretty cool uniform reveal, before the season started. I know having a good home atmosphere and an intimidating one in that sense for an opposing team, and just getting the student body involved. So how has that been so far?
Yeah, with the uniforms, man, I just want to thank everyone who donated. We're going to be doing that in the future, but we got a lot of donations from former alumni, from local businesses that helped out with the uniforms, and that was absolutely huge. I can't thank them enough. It's all the jerseys say discipline, intellect, and grit on the back, so that's pretty cool. That's our team mantra, keep digging. As for the home atmosphere, yeah, we usually walk out to the band, but it was someone's idea that somebody in the band last year who's local plays the bagpipes, and that just gave me the chills. We walk out from our locker room right through the middle of the parking lot, through the tailgate. So all the parents are going nuts. Everyone's filming you. And then we kind of bang a right on the track and go into the end zone. And there's people who kind of sit in the end zone. So you're also seeing that. We have our team shovel guy of the week, who's like our practice player of the week that's in front with the kilt and the bagpipes. It's just a great atmosphere. The students are buying in. We had a whiteout last week with home jerseys. This week is senior night. I think it's a red, white, and blue week for 9/11. So the students are bought in, the teachers are bought in, the whole community's bought in. And I'm hoping that I can do my job as the head coach and the kids can do their job and my staff to keep this train rolling in a positive way, because the buzz has just been awesome. And these kids deserve this attention, man. They really do.
Tommy, your enthusiasm really shines anytime we talk to you, anytime we ask you any question about your program. And I think we see that reflected in your program and the way you guys are playing. So, it's cool to see Manchester having the success. We're excited to see what you guys can do there. So again, thanks for taking the time today to join us, and looking forward to talking to you guys and covering you guys, a lot more this season.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
That's Manchester head coach Tommy Farrell of the 3-0 Hawks, looking to move to 4-0, as he said, for the first time in school history. So Tommy, always a great guy to talk to, and they got it going so far. And you tell from talking to him, like, he gets it. Where we're 3-0, this is great, but hey guys, like, I understand, like, we got to keep the foot on the pedal here.
And, like, given the caliber of people, like he said, it's only going to get harder every week. Mm-hmm. So you got to prepare them for that, where you can't get too intoxicated with what you've done already and think that you made it. But they've been trying for so many years to break through that 6-win wall. And I think this is the best chance they ever had. And not only that, they have a pretty young team.
Yes.
There's a lot of sophomores and juniors that are major contributors and stars on this team. So you could be talking about a nice, like, real good 2-year run here at the very least to set the foundation of that program.
Yeah, like, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it would be really awesome to see a program that hasn't had a ton of success, kind of start to rise up and build that foundation. And, Tommy seems like he's certainly the guy for the job. So good stuff from the Hawks, and hopefully we see a lot more of them as the season goes on. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're talking Holmdel Hornets in studio with head coach Jeff Rainess. You are watching and listening to the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network.
Getting that perfect slice is satisfying, fulfilling, and rewarding too. But we don't do it for fun. We do it for fresh. Slice to order makes a sub above.
And we're back on the Varsity Link Coaches Corner here on the Shore Sports Network, talking Shore Conference football, going around the Shore, hitting on different programs, talking to coaches, players, and touching on some of the big games from the prior week and the week ahead. And right now, we're happy to be joined in studio by Holmdel head coach Jeff Rainess. The Hornets 2-0, off to a great start, coming off a tough 2022 season, already surpassed their win total from last year, and coming off a huge win in week 2, an overtime victory, 20-14 over St. John Vianney. Snapped a long losing streak to the Lancers. St. John Vianney's in Holmdel, so kind of battle of Holmdel, a lot of layers to that game, but a huge win nonetheless. The Hornets are 2-0. They're feeling great, and we're happy to welcome in head coach Jeff Rainess. So, Coach, thanks for taking the long drive, I joked, down the road. We're in Holmdel here at Bellworks, so it worked out pretty well for you to come down in the studio. So just first, thanks for taking some time and talking some football with us.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me. It took me longer to find the studio once I got in the place than it did to drive here.
It's a big place. The first couple of times I was here too. Where am I going? So, last season, and we talked before I wrote the preview story and just about it. It was a tough year. You guys have built so much positive momentum, and last season, 1-8, you had some injuries. You were out most of the season with a health scare. And I know the biggest thing from you and the program was like, that's not us. Like, that's an aberration. Let's come back this year and prove that we are the team that we've been for, the previous handful of seasons. And you guys have really started off well. So just how about that? Really having that mentality, that mantra coming into the year, and then, putting your your money where your mouth is, so to speak.
Yeah, listen, it was a tough situation to navigate, So part of the deal was trying to keep everybody together last year without even really being there. So to try and keep everybody positive about the progress, listen, it didn't feel quite like it did when I first got here. Not maybe completely broken, but we knew that the culture had taken a hit. We knew that the psyche had taken a hit. So the off season was really spent trying to rebuild that culture and rebuild that foundation.
And I know it's only 2 weeks in, but you win 42-6 in week 1 against Tom's River South. Then you have a dramatic overtime victory, which, obviously that's going to pump the whole team up. It's still early, but has that been a huge part of, like you said, kind of building back that culture? Maybe, took a hit. Do you feel like these just 2 weeks, but you guys are starting to, build that back with the way you've won these games, giving this kid some confidence?
Yeah. So it's definitely a confidence booster. You touched on it earlier. Like we knew going into it that it's been a long time since we had beaten St. John Vianney. So, I told the seniors before the week, like, listen, this is a great opportunity for you guys to stamp the year early, and put us on a good track. And, they went out and performed well, and just a thrilling win, just a thrilling environment to be in. So
huge night for the community too.
It was a great night for the community. You mentioned those guys are in Holmdel as well. So that's been written a couple times. That may have made its way to the to the board,
Yeah, first win over them since 2010. Right. Yeah. So, I just think too, with a lot of young guys contributing, that's got to give you just some confidence when you get 2 wins right off the bat, that what you've been preaching to them in the preseason and talking to them has now resulted in wins right away. That's got to have been crucial too, that you're getting that confidence almost right off the bat.
1,000%. So, the young guys are certainly contributing, but it's a good senior unit as well. Those guys were around for the, initial kind of ascent of the program. And it bothered them, it bothered them to take a step, bothered all of us to take a step backwards. So, that's been the hardest part of it, is just managing expectations and all of that. And trying to get people to understand that, there's a correlation between hard work and success. And that's been the goal.
And during your tenure at Holmdel, 6th year, am I correct?
8th
year. See, I knew it was somewhere 6, 7, 8, but like you said, you took over a program that had struggled for a while, and pretty quickly, you guys were back in contention. You won a division title, were our coach of the year, I believe, in 2018, and have produced some all-shore players, especially offensively, where that split back veer offense of yours is a pain for teams to deal with. Jaden Gall, the most recent one, breaking all your records. You've had some big linemen, and this season, just through 2 weeks, you seem like you have a lot of depth in that area, and your sophomore quarterback, Jack Cannon, has really played well. So just how about having what seems like a really nice stable of backs and a young quarterback who can make plays on the ground and through the air?
So we're definitely doing it a little bit by committee, more by committee than we traditionally have. We have 4 kids back there right now that are sharing carries, and it's pretty well, it's pretty well split up between the 4 of them right now. And that certainly helped us late in the game, in the St. John Vianney game. We felt like we had fresh kids. We had kids that still had fresh legs. So the breakdown between rushing yards and passing yards is certainly more slanted towards passing now. The kid can sling it. He can run. He's a pretty good player. He's a real dynamic player. We're excited about what he can do. And we're just, we're not putting too much in front of him right now. We're just letting him kind of grow into the role. And he's a great kid, and he's handing off to, 4 very, very good running backs.
And you guys have had such a successful system with that offense. How does it work when you get a quarterback who can throw the ball like that? Do you adjust to him? Do you feed him little bits like, okay, we're going to add a little bit more to the playbook every week? When you have somebody who's maybe giving you that kind of dynamic you haven't had in the past years, the run game is there, but do you open the playbook a little bit more when you have a guy who can do that, in the passing game?
Most certainly. So we took, I wasn't even really there, but we took we started taking a look at Jack last year as a freshman. We brought him up just to kind of see what he could do, and we'd see him at the freshman level, but that's a different deal.
Yeah.
So going into the season, we definitely did. We definitely opened the playbook. I didn't want to get completely away from the things that had made us successful.
Right.
So we found a way to marry the two. Whether or not that's successful, I guess I'll find out in a couple of months. But certainly at the beginning of the year here, we had 2 400-yard offensive performances, and I'm happy with the way that it's kind of splitting up. So he'll grow more into that kind of spread role. But there's a lot of things that go with that. The protection and the linemen and the receivers, and there's a lot of things that are going with that. We've worked very hard at that over the summer.
And on Jack, I'm sure you guys have known about him coming up through the ranks, which you do. Every player comes to your program, but his father is one of the best football players, right, all time at Holmdel, Scott Cannon. His sister's phenomenal athletes. Lindsay, I think, played 4 sports at Holmdel. So is that just the case where it's like this is a really athletic family, and he's the latest in that line? It certainly seems that way.
It's a great Holmdel family.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had a big family reunion this past weekend at Scott's house, and they were all at the game. So that was another great reason to watch Jack play such a good game and watch the Hornets pull one out. So it was good because all the Cannons were there. So
on the defensive side, you guys, again, you gave up 6 points, in the opening win of your season against Tom's River South. St. John, I know they're really young, but they have some talented players. They had their running back, Luca Menard, ripped off a couple long touchdowns. But you guys were able to buckle down. Down 14-7, I think at halftime, right? You had to hold that, or earlier than that. You guys had to hold them all throughout the second half and overtime. So what went into that, and who were some of the standouts there? I know Alex Reyes, your sophomore, had a big game, but I know it wasn't just him. So just how about that? Just holding the fort where the offense can find a way to tie it up and then win it.
So that was one of the things, like in the offseason, that we really took a look at, was the way that we played defense last year was the most alarming thing. That was the thing that jumped out at us. So we just wanted to get back to being super physical, right? So we spent a lot of time in the weight room, and we spent a lot of time developing guys, and we just felt like we just didn't look like us last year. So this year, I'll say like that certainly at the beginning of the year, we've been more physical. We're still making mistakes, or you got some young guys playing there still making some mistakes, but we have contributions coming from all 3 levels, and I think Coach Principi's done a great job of reinstalling that downhill mentality, and it showed up. Listen, they got 1 or 2 on us the other night, but late in the game when we really needed it, it was the defense that stepped up and got us the ball back.
Is that the impressive part of that win too? The resolve that your team had to show just to even get it to overtime and then to be able to pull off the win?
So we shot ourselves in the foot a couple times. Like I said, 400 yards offense. Between the 20 and 20, we were great. We fumbled the ball once down there. We turned it over on downs one time. We had a touchdown call back. We had 2 or 3 penalties that pulled us back. We had a couple of drop balls that probably could have wound up in the end zone. So we're sitting there looking at it going 14-7, like we got to break the door down, like we just got to get in one. So Jack wound up scrambling late in the game and breaking it, and then we kind of felt like heading into overtime. We were exhausted too, but we felt like they were exhausted. It was a hot night, and it was it had been a hot week, and we were just trying to get it to overtime. We felt like we had the advantage.
Oh, first off, Coach Principi is my accountant. So the more we plug him, the more write-offs I think I can get on my taxes. So we really want to talk about that defense.
Yes, let's go on about the defense. Tell us more.
But for you personally, given what you went through last year just with health issues, what was it like for you to return to be away from football as such a football guy? And then what was it like for you that when you first came back and you returned and you're around the team again?
That's a great question. And it really makes you look at a lot of, it makes you dig down a little bit and then really kind of look at what you're doing with your life and how important your family is and everything else. And then, at the end of the day, I just kind of sat back and said, I have, obviously my family is the most important thing, but then I have this other thing that we've built here. And if the doc is telling me it's okay, and it's okay to keep going with it, like I'm committed to it. We've built this thing. It's a huge part of my life. It's one of my things I'm most proud of that I've done in my life. And it was a relief to get back on the sidelines this year, last year, at the end of last year. And then coming into it this year, it kind of feels like, it's good to be home.
And it just must have been gratifying to see the players' outpouring of support and love for you during that time. And then when you came back, that must have been an emotional moment, that first day that you're, back at the end of last year.
Yeah, that was tough. And it was tough to say goodbye. I think I came back, it was senior night, and it was tough to say goodbye to those families and those kids. And, I hadn't been there for 5 or 6 weeks or whatever it was. And it's, listen, I don't ever want to go back there. That was a tough road.
And talking about more positive things now, going forward, you guys are not a secret anymore. It's not, they had one win last year. Like, that's
back on the radar.
Yeah, that's
now.
an easy win. Or something. I mean, you've done some impressive things here early on. How are you going to handle the fact that now, you're not going to really sneak up on anybody or anything like that?
Well, in the modern, world of huddle and pooled exchanges, I don't think you're sneaking up on anybody these days. So, everybody kind of has a beat on what's going on. But, I think I'm just happy we have found a way so far to stay who we are. I think we've stayed true to who we are, trying to be a physical downhill football team. And we've worked in some cool stuff for the different talent that we've gotten now. And, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the future.
And the other thing is, Bob and I talked about this in the preseason. Your division seemed completely wide open.
Exactly.
A bunch of other teams graduated their stars. It was like every team was kind of an unknown. Mm-hmm. Whether they graduated all Shore players, they had an off year the year before. I mean, when you look at it, you got to think, hey, why not us? We have as good a shot as anybody here.
We always think that. That might have been a little tougher to sell a couple years ago when I was playing in the NFC East. But I think that's the schedule is what it is. I as somebody that has gone from playing Group 1 schools one year to working our way up to having to play Group 5 schools one year, like we've been at all levels of this thing. So I kidded the guy that makes the schedule after it came out, and I was like, I see how it works. When we're good, we move way up, and when we're bad, we stay exactly the same.
Your reward for winning is
exactly.
to be punished with a brutal schedule.
We joke about that too, like the Colonial Division. Like, your reward is to go play like RBC and Rumson and North.
Right.
So it's
we've lived it, and it's an imperfect time. It's an imperfect science, and I stopped getting upset about that stuff a long time ago. And you just go out and play the guys that you're going to play and prepare your team the best you can.
One of those unknown teams in division, really was Asbury Park for a lot of different reasons. New head coach, questions about their numbers. And you guys you play them this week. They're 0-2, but I know that's not a team you can ever take lightly, because out of nowhere, they can put up like 50 points because they have those kinds of skill players led by Raleigh Stevens, just a dynamic football player on both sides of the field. So what has been the message to your team in terms of not just X's and O's, but the mental preparation going to play an opponent like that, who it says 0-2, but you have to treat them differently.
All you need to do is go turn the tape on.
Yeah.
We sat down with those guys Monday when we came back in, and it jumps off the page at you. They are awfully athletic, and you could tell that is a group that's coached as well. I thought they played very well against Ocean. I think Ocean's a very good football team, and I think Asbury might have had the lead at halftime, or maybe was down by 1 at halftime. But they have our full attention. That's a very, very good football team. It's a dangerous football team. And it's somebody we've had to prepare all week for. So, I don't, from a kid's standpoint, like the kids can look at 0-2 all they want, but all they need to do is sit in the room with us when we watch film, and they're not going to overlook anybody.
Gets their attention pretty quick. Huh?
It absolutely does. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, it's always been great to talk to you. Ever since you became that coach at Holmdel, you've been a great friend of the Shore Sports Network. We always enjoy having you on, talking about your program. First, it's great to see you back healthy, coaching football, having fun, and your team has responded. So I know it's a long season, but it's great now, and hopefully you guys continue the upward trend and keep playing consistent football. So
thank you
again,
so
thanks
much
for coming down and joining us, and we look forward to talking to you and covering your team a lot more this season.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's always good to see you guys, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
That's Holmdel head coach Jeff Rainess. The 2-0 Hornets will take on Asbury Park this weekend, looking to move to 3-0. So, Jeff, we thank you again. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with our final guest, talk some Brick Township football, one of the most storied programs in the Shore, off to a 3-0 start. We'll hear from head coach Zdanowicz just how they're doing it. So back after that, Back after this, on the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network.
The right way to top a sub is with real red wine vinegar made from red grapes and no food coloring. And the right way to film it is in slow motion. Obviously. Because authentic ingredients make a sub above.
Tell Lenny.
Right there.
Yo, what's up, Jeff?
Hey, you put on the headphones and talk to me.
What's up, Coach?
How you doing, baby?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good to see you out there, man.
You're not going to talk about the 6-0 win from back in like 2016.
Listen, who got the last laugh?
Welcome back to the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network. Coming up on our third guest, and we're talking Brick Township football right now with head coach Len Zdanowicz. Brick, needs no introduction. One of the most storied programs in the Shore, 7 state sectional titles, and many more before the NJSA playoffs were official in 1974. Of course, the legendary head coach Warren Wolf, the patriarch of Shore Conference football. Again, we could probably do a whole podcast just on Brick football. But today we're talking the 2023 Dragons, and we are joined by head coach Len Zdanowicz. Brick 3-0, coming off a really good 14-7 win over Freehold in a game that spanned multiple days after some weather delays. So first off, Len, thanks for taking some time. Good to talk to you again. And just tell us about that win over Freehold. I mean, a dangerous team, scored 35 points in their season opener, and your defense came through again. You guys got a big 14-7 win.
Yeah, we had a Coach Mack and the defensive staff. When we met about them, we were worried because of how dynamic they were. They were dominant in their scrimmages, and then getting to see them against Keyport, against the athletes and the team that they had. And there were some athletes on that field that day watching that. And we came up with a pretty good game plan. Coach Mack came up with a good plan, and we had some tendencies that we were able to try to take advantage of, but of course they come out first couple plays and they went opposite a lot of those tendencies. But we adjusted well. They got a couple of plays on us. We gave them a touchdown that first drive, and then the defense really shut the door after that. And they let up a couple of yards, but they didn't let them in the end zone again. So that was key for the game defensively. And offensively, we had guys rotating in and out. Our quarterbacks were doing a good job. Kids did a good job as far as with their defense at 3-3 stack, that they throw everything at you, and they have a lot of athletes on the field. And we were worried about how we would be able to handle them, but for the most part, the kids did a pretty good job of it, and we were able to get some yards on them, through the air and on the ground.
Len, my biggest question out of this whole scenario was how you stop a game in the middle of a Saturday, and then you keep the kids focused, and you got to get everybody not only to play on a Sunday, resume at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. I can't even get out of bed before.
It was. We were sitting there, and we came out to the field, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're not starting. And we're like, what? So we're out of the field. All of a sudden we go back in the locker room, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the storm is just not moving, and it looks like it's going to move, and all of a sudden it circles back. So we're sitting there, and then me and Dave met with our ADs, and we said, listen, if we can't start by 4, we're out. And we'll wait, we'll have to do it again. And all of a sudden it was evident we weren't going to start at 4. We're trying to get the kids, keep them busy. Parents ran out and got food for them. The kids were doing a skit show. It was just everything to try to keep their minds instead of just dozing off and everything. So, so we did everything we could. And then we decided to move the game. And, with the weather the next day, it looked like it was even going to be bad the next day.
Right.
So we said, dude, we got to go early, or if it's supposed to be what it's supposed to be and be from 10 o'clock on all day of thunderstorms, and the Freehold has a game tomorrow, was Thursday night. Yeah. So they couldn't move it. So we said, let's go early, Dave. And he was like, yeah, we both were like, yeah, I guess so. Let's do it. And, I just called all my coaches, called experts about how to handle everything with the kids and the tiredness and the soreness. And we came right back here. We had 2 ice baths going. Kids are in there. Instead of water, Gatorade, food, everything, our Scott Lloyd, our conditioning coach, sent out an email to all the parents about how to handle the kids at night, get them in bed right away. Our captains were all on board with it, and everybody just did a great job of getting the kids ready for the next day. I mean, it was a good all-around team effort.
Len, did it help that when the game was suspended, it was halftime and it was a tie game, so you can kind of go into Sunday hey, we're only playing a half, but it's 0-0. It's a new game. Just go out and win when you win the game.
It would have been better if we had the lead. I mean, don't get me wrong, of course, because we had that last second drive and we were close to getting in there, but we ran out of time. And, the clock wasn't working on the field, so that also affected it a little bit. But, listen, at the end, I mean, both teams were tired, man. I'll tell you, it was hot. Their guys were hurt and our guys were hurt, and we saw kids dropping on both sides. And and it was brutal. I mean, it was a hot game, and that second half, it was going to be a brutal second half if we played it afterwards the way it was. But unfortunately for both of us, we were able to come out fresh, and I think it was over by like 8:45 on Sunday morning. It was so quick, and it just felt weird. At 1 or 2 o'clock, I was like, man, we played a game this morning. It just felt like it was yesterday. It was just so weird. I never went through, but it was
church by the time the game's over.
It was weird. It was just so weird coming home going, I just came from a game. It just didn't feel right, So.
And I guess certainly what helps and what I think has been the story of your season so far is a shutdown defense. I mean, you haven't allowed more than 7 points in any of your games this year. You got a shutout in your, opening game win over Toms River East.
Yeah.
I mean, how has that really been the backbone of your team?
Well, listen, the defense is always going to be our backbone here. Brian, Coach Mack does a great job, with our defense. We feel like we got some really good playmakers all over the field. We got some inexperienced guys up front that are really doing their job well. They're just embracing their role. We have a really solid, good line. We think we have, 4 or 5 good linebackers, really, and the 4 linebackers that we play, mostly all seniors too, that are just like probably some of the best group of linebackers I've had here in the years I've been here. And then we got some good corners, some solid safeties. So we got a real good, our back 7 is as good as it gets in my book. And, our front line is really doing a good job. And the coaches, we have this year, Coach Mack, Coach Malta, Coach Doc, and Coach Kite are just like a great group. They work great together, and they all 100% in, and it's a good thing to see on that side of the ball.
One of those players for me, one of the most underrated players in the entire Shore Conference, and that's your senior, Jake Toy. And you had a very impressive comment about him, and you said he's one of the best players, probably all-around players that you've ever coached, given what he does, not just defensively, where he tends to stand out more at the numbers, but he's an H-back, so he'll run the ball, he'll take handoffs, he'll catch passes, kind of like tight end-ish. I've even seen him on some the huddle clips taking direct snaps out of the backfield. Something about his impact he can make in all aspects. He punts for you as well. So one of those Swiss Army knife type players, but excels at anywhere you put him.
It's freakish how he is. And at just almost a shade under 6'4", 220 pounds, and the athletic ability of the kid. And it's freakish. He's such a sponge as far as, we call a thing called football IQ. And his football IQ is through the roof. He's a smart kid as it is. But how he just you tell him one thing one time and he remembers it forever. He just knows everything. And you'll see him, he's telling half the team what to do sometimes. He is just a sponge of knowledge, and then his athletic ability is through the roof. And then what I love most about him is his competitiveness. No matter what he's doing, if he's playing a game of ping pong out here, he's trying to kick your butt net. It's anything that he does, he's competitive in. And that's what the great thing about it is. And, as far as him as a player, the greatest thing I can say about the kid is whenever we come off a defense and he gets a break defensively or offensively on scout when we're going through stuff, he runs over to scout and lines up against the defense right away, just jumps right in there, not even asked. He's just a kid that just loves playing football, and the athletic ability for a kid that big is special. And, he's a kid that's underrated as far as all the colleges, and there's a lot of colleges talking to him. But I just can't understand how he doesn't have offers yet. It kind of boggles my mind because of the size of him too. I mean, he's 6'4", and he can do anything you need to, and he's still growing into his body. So he's just an amazing kid.
And he comes from one of Brick's royal families too, in the sense
royalty, man.
It seems like he has that knowledge of Brick football, that tradition. He understands it, and he kind of plays to it in a way where. When I talk to him, he's such a respectful kid. On the field, he's an animal, and then off the field, he's a gentleman. And I just get the sense in those, moments talking to him where he understands the tradition of Brick football and takes pride in upholding that, the way he plays and the way he carries himself.
Listen, he's a hockey player and he's a football player, so he knows both traditions forever. From being, his great grandfather's Coach Oriema, so he knows his mom, Cindy Acropolis at the time, was on a football. I was a hockey player here on a boys team, state champion. Father played football, college football at RPI, so very athletic family. And the kid he's only been playing football since 8th grade too. That's the one thing that shocks me about him. But he's just he's one of those kids that's just going to be, he's still climbing as far as his ceiling, and it's he's going to be a special kid for the next level.
And I know your defense obviously has been a big story here, but I thought a real revelation from the Freehold game, 2 big passing hookups between Ryan Bontorno and Jaden Johnson.
Yep.
Some big play ability from that offense. I know it wasn't a ton of points, but that has to give you just some confidence and okay, maybe now we've found this other gear of our offense, another way that we can scare teams throwing deep on the field.
Well, listen, we had some good our quarterbacks this year. We have 2 senior kids that are like kind of sharing the reps between Ryan and Christian Booker, and they're both like handling it great. They complement each other. They're there cheering each other on. They're just 2 great kids, and we kind of use them interchangeably, like I've done in the past. And in the past, like 2018 when I used Prado and Leblo the same way, I kind of use them both of them the same way. And we had a lot of success with that team. And these guys are just complementing each other, and we're just gonna see which way we can kind of. We want to just make sure we can kind of get that offense clicking on both sides too. It's tough to have 2 quarterbacks out there taking the reps, but they're both getting better every week. And the offensive line, we got a couple of sophomores that are breaking in, but our skill guys, between Jake, between Jermaine, Sean Savannah on the outside, Gavin Maffey, and then Jaden Johnson has been great for us catching these passes and a lot of the stuff he does running the ball. And Justice Morgan, a sophomore, along with Trempy. We got some guys that are pretty good athletes, and we think we can do some things with those guys on the perimeter too.
This division you're in, and one of the themes we've been talking about, Scott and I, since the season started, a lot of these divisions you look at and you say, man, like this is wide open. Like you can make a case for almost, if there's 6 teams in every division, most of them you can make a case for at least 5 of them, 4 of them. Mm-hmm. To be contenders, and you're certainly one of those teams in the Independence division. Brick Moral 3-0. Freehold is still a dangerous team. Freehold Township 1-1. So when you guys saw the divisions come out, did you look at those teams and say, "Hey, like we're right here"? I know sometimes you can look at the schedule and the division, and it's like right off the bat, if you got to play an RBC and a Rumson every week, certainly it's different. But the way this division's set up seems like it's you get the kids' attention in the sense where, hey, we come out, take care of business. We should be right in the mix till the end.
Well, I mean, with the way the schedules are now, as far as the design of it is to be like that. I mean, it's to be like where, and we say it every year, we can win every game and we can lose every game. I mean, it's just a matter of who shows up and which team prepares well, because you're gonna have parity. You're gonna have a lot of teams battling it out, and that's what it's designed for. I mean, listen, I loved Class A South was I love it. I would never want to change it. But as far as if they want parity, this is what we got right now. And the only thing I miss is just the fact that you don't have that rivalries all the time every year, And the one thing that we did have over the years with all this new format was we had a nice rivalry with Freehold Borough. Mm-hmm. Dave talked about it. We played them twice a year for a couple of years, and in the regular season and playoffs. And one of us was going to the finals, and we had a good run with them. And it's always been like 1-score games, and it's what it was, and just like our last game with them. So you're going to get parity, and it's going to be pretty fair, mostly for the most part, I think, for all the games. So it's just a matter of which teams have good depth, which teams prepare the best, and which teams get their kids ready to go.
And real quick on that, going back to A South, we've talked a lot about this. You do miss those traditional rivalries. You still play Brick Moral every season. That'll be the final week of the regular season. Mm-hmm. Opened up with Tom's River East. Is there a team that you really miss that, hey, we wish we had this team every year just because of the rivalry aspect from the
it's just it always used to be a thing where you just play the teams that you grew up playing against mm-hmm. with the Pop Warner and youth football. We played all the Toms Rivers. You play Toms Rivers South, you play North, East, Jackson, Southern. It's like that was our league, and what we had, and it was a good thing, but I mean we play a lot of those teams. This year we played East. We haven't played them. We've scrimmaged them in the past. We played South last year. We haven't played North in a couple of years, although we did go against North in a 7-on-7, and that's a good football team. I tell you that much. We don't see like Southern. We played a couple of years back, Lacey and stuff. So it's different, but it's not like it's a different schedule and stuff. And we're going to play whoever they put in front of us. But it's just something about like just growing up with A South and not playing it's just a difference,
You have how many years is this for you now as the head coach at Brick?
I think 8 or 9, 2015. So yeah, I think about 8. Yeah.
I mean, there's only been
8. I have to lose track.
There's only been 4 head coaches in Brick's history.
Yeah.
Them, and you played for Coach Wolf. So I know I've asked you this a couple times in the past, but what's it mean to you to be sitting in that chair, sitting in that locker room? There's so many legendary, things have happened. You were a part of a lot of them on the field as a player. What's it mean to be the guy, leading that program?
It's always the same way. It's just something that, you always got to take pride in and you understand what it means and what the expectations are. That's the biggest thing that we stress to the kids. We haven't had a good season in a couple of years as far as a winning season, but the goals don't change. The goals are what they are. You want to win your division, you want to win states, those are the goals. And that's, we try not to make light of that at all. If we think we would have a bad season, then it's try to win every game. If the kids see you're not going to make the playoffs and something like in a couple of years, and you still want to compete. And that's what we have our kids doing. And, we have a good senior group this year that really has worked their butt off in a lot of things. And, talented kids in the junior class and a real strong sophomore class. And these kids are all coming together, and there's a good mix of kids. And, we got some kids that are really setting the tone as far as leadership, with Will Walsh and Jake Toys are two really main captains, and as far as the rest of our guys. But they're just doing a good job leading this team and doing all the right things.
And finally, you had been starting the season for a while with the Brick Memorial game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now it's on cutoff weekend. I love this idea that you have to play your rival that last weekend before, maybe you get a better seed. Maybe it's just to get into the playoffs. How do you look at the fact that now that game is at a pretty pivotal time of the season?
I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change it. I mean, that game right now, it's too far away to worry about, but I mean, I always loved it as the first game. It was something new. I thought it was going to be weird, but it kind of drove the off season. It was always fun. And, it was always a way to kick it off because, I mean, it was a mobbed house no matter where we had it. So I just think it's a good rivalry. The fact that both teams are doing well this year is always going to make it better. And if it comes down to, we're fortunate we're both in the same position we are right now, and it's for a division, then so be it. But we both have a lot of work to do to get there before we can talk about that.
Last one for me. You take on Barnegat this week, looking to move to 4-0. The Bengals have struggled 0-3, but they have some really good players. Like Cole Toddings has been a monster. Kind of similar to Jake in a way for Barnegat, like both sides of the ball, playing tight end, linebacker, wreaking a lot of havoc. So what do you see from Barnegat, some of the things that you guys think you need to key on to come away with a win?
Yeah, he's very much they use him like we kind of use Jake. He's all over the place on defense. He's all over the place. They put him where they think they need to. They put him. They got a lot of good athletes on that defense, some good size, especially on the offensive line too, with some good sized kids, some nice skill players, some good running backs. The quarterbacks is like a little shorter kid, but he's just shifty and he gets rid of the ball and he can move really good running out of their option stuff. So they got a tough team. I mean, they've had some trouble with some of the teams they played, but again, we're not looking at records and we're going after them the same way we've gone after everybody else.
Good stuff, Len. Again, thanks for taking some time after practice to join us, talk some brick football. Good to catch up with you, hear about how the Dragons are getting it done in 2023. And, best of luck to you guys this week, the rest of the way. And we hope to talk to you in the future.
You got it, guys. Thanks for everything you guys do, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Len.
Guys, have a good one.
That's Brick Zdanowicz, the Dragons 3-0, looking to move to 4-0 as they take on Barnegat. So a good slate of guests we had today. It was good talking to Tommy Farrell, Jeff Rainess, and Len Zdanowicz. So just a few minutes left. We're going to take one final break, come back, just hit on some of the key games to look for in week 3. So quick break, and we'll be back on the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network.
Getting that perfect slice is satisfying, fulfilling, and rewarding too. But we don't do it for fun. We do it for fresh. Slice to order makes a sub above.
Back on the Varsity Link Coaches Corner, we'll just quickly look ahead to some of the top games in week 3. And again, like we talked about in the open, Toms River North, part of the big game from last week. Well, they're part of the headliner for week 3. They'll head right down the street to take on number 4 Donovan Catholic. The Griffins coming off a bye. They're amped for this game. So is Toms River North. The atmosphere is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying that could potentially, you could argue that's the biggest home game in the history of Donovan Catholic's program. I mean, Toms River North comes in ranked in the top 5 in the state, number 1 public school program in the state. They're right down the street from each other. Donovan Catholic's head coach is the former defensive coordinator for Toms River North. Donovan's offensive coordinator is Chip LaVarca Jr., who's Toms River North's former head coach that led them to state titles with Dan Curcione. So there's all that subplot. I mean, you have The players know each other really well. I mean, Jalen Matthews, the star lineman from Toms River North, was just on a visit to Penn State a couple weeks ago with Michael Thomas, the star wide receiver of Donovan Catholic. So this, to me, is the main focus is, can Donovan Catholic break through against this team? Obviously, overarching is, can anyone beat Toms River North? But for Donovan Catholic, for all the talent they've had and all the success they've really had, I feel like they still think they're underappreciated or underrated. This is their shot if they want to make the whole state take notice.
One more game, just get in a little bit more detail about a key game in the Freedom Division, Jackson Memorial at Middletown North. Really a separation game in there. The number 7 Jaguars head to face the number 11 Lions. That's a game there. The winner of that, it takes, command as far as that division title goes.
Yeah, and Middletown North was right there with Brick Memorial until the end. So that they've shown their potential that they can, they'll take top 10 teams or, ranked teams and push them to the brink. So we'll see if they can close after a nail biter over Howell last week.
Some other ranked matchups of note: number 13 Colts Neck will be at number 8 Manalapan on Thursday. You have number 9 Marlboro visiting a Howell team that was ranked, dropped out, 2 losses by combined 3 points. That's a key game also in that Freedom Division. And then going down the line, Walt Red Bank Catholic is American Division game. The case is coming off a bye, heavily favored. And we talked about some of the games of the guests we had on. Manchester, playing against Keensburg, Holmdel and Asbury Park, and then Brick, heading over to Barnegat. So some big division games, probably some games in there that maybe don't look huge right now, but I'm sure the results can come in on Thursday and Friday night and change that.
Yeah, I just look at last week, like Toms River East and Toms River South. I think those were 2 results that jumped out at people that maybe going into the week you didn't think like, oh, that's a big game or for that division or whatever. So yeah, every week in these divisions, the margin is so razor thin. Again, we have Shore Regional and Ocean. I think that's another good one. But these are the separation games where we start being like, okay, it's looking like it's going to be this team versus that team for the division title.
You start looking ahead, like if they didn't play, we're like, all right, when's that game?
Yep.
You know the drill.
Yep.
Well, that'll do it for us this week. Thanks again to our guests, to Manchester head coach Tommy Farrell, Holmdel head coach Jeff Rainess, Brick head coach Len Zdanowicz. Of course, thank you to our sponsor, Varsity Link, the Athletes Social Media Network. Check out those guys, varsitylink.com. Download the app, the App Store or the Google Play Store. Those guys doing some great things over there. Really looking to advance the way athletes can combine social media with some of their measurables and stats to help them get recruited. So big shout out to those guys for helping us put this out each and every week. We'll be back next week, with some more coaches and wrapping up some of the stuff that happened, which surely will be an eventful week 3. So for Scott Stump, I'm Bob Batters. Thank you for watching and listening to the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network.